Transition question, go right to the lines. Do not read those transition words. Let's see what we've got before we start biasing ourselves. In his 1925 book, The Morphology of Landscape, U.S. geographer Carl Sauer challenged prevailing views about how natural landscapes influence human culture. So that seems important. Sauer argued that instead of being shaped entirely by their natural surroundings, cultures play an active role in their own development by virtue of their interactions with the environment. So the first part is just saying he challenged prevailing views. I guess the second part is kind of maybe an example of that. It's not contradicting the first part. It's giving me something that he argued, so maybe it's a continuation. So the reason this is actually very easy for me is I kind of just know how these transitions work. There's only so many kinds of transitions that we see. There are some weird ones, but for the most part, we've got transitions that are and, but, so, and then examples, right? We say, here's a thought, and let me give you an example to support that. So that's what this is to me. I'm like, okay, this specific argument that they're giving at the end here is an example of how he challenged prevailing views. So I'm kind of thinking in my head, there's like a limited menu, and it's not a but, it's maybe an and, not really a so this example thing fits. And then I'm like, okay, well, is there anything that kind of goes with that? Well, specifically is what we would use when we're trying to be specific, provide a specific example. So D is the answer here. It's not a finally, there's no time, so that doesn't make any sense. It's not a similarly either. It's not giving us two examples and saying that they're similar, right? It's making a general claim and then getting more specific about it. So similarly, we would kind of need two examples for that to make any sense. And it's not a therefore, like that means so. So he challenged prevailing views, so he argued. Like they're not separate, right? It's not the challenging leads to the argument that they're making in the second sentence. The challenging is the argument, right? It's an example of the first thing, not a response to the first thing. So maybe that's subtle, but I think that's so much easier for me to see because before I even looked at these answer choices, I kind of knew I was looking for an example word. I was like, okay, this clearly is a more specific version of what they just said because I know of just what kinds of transitions are possible. So that's something we're going to examine as we see more and more of the new digital SAT is how repetitive are the categories of transition words, so that way we can maybe anticipate what the right answer is going to be before we even see the answer choice. And I think that that's the main strategy for now, regardless, is don't bias yourself by looking at those choices. Go to the lines themselves and try to understand what you think the transition is first. That way, hopefully, when you see the right one, it's more clear that it's right and you're not going to second guess yourself.